Hello friends, it is me, your old pal JJ, and today we are going to talk about lunches. Specifically the lunches of children. As is so often the case with this channel, I got the idea for this video from a book for babies entitled What's Inside My Lunchbox by Hannah Elliott, and I thought I could probably hash this into 10 minutes worth of content. I like to talk about culture a lot on this channel, and food is one of the most important symbols of any country's culture. But a lot of countries also tend to present the world with a very dishonest picture of their food culture. They're all like, oh yes, this is the traditional food of my people. No. The most honest way to get an accurate picture of a country's food culture is to look at the sort of lame meals that they slap together when no foreigners are looking. And what meals are lamer and more quickly slapped together than the homemade lunches that parents give their children to bring to school.
All right, bologna and cheese. What do you got, Bert? Pack of sugar and peanut butter smeared on a playing card.
These have to be made every day, they have to be made from easily available groceries, and they have to be cheap because we are not made of money here, children. Now, of course, not all children of the world eat lunch in exactly the same way. Some kids eat lunches prepared by school cafeteria workers. In some cultures, lunch is considered the most important meal of the day, so children go home to eat it with their families. And of course, in some cultures, they don't even eat lunch at all. But in this video, we are going to look at a few countries where homemade lunches for children are what is most common. Starting with the place where I grew up, Canada. By the way, today's video brought to you by our good pals at Skillshare. So when I was a kid, our homemade lunches always comprised 4 things: a sandwich, an apple, a juice box, and fruit snacks. My father was very good at making sandwiches and would let me pick out any meat I wanted at the supermarket. So I would have salami or chicken or turkey or roast beef in my sandwiches, depending on what I felt like. He wouldn't let me have bologna though, because he considered that a low-class meat, and my parents were very stereotypically insecure middle-class people. All of my school chums were jealous of my cool meat sandwiches because their parents would only buy them ham, or sometimes peanut butter, or peanut butter and strawberry jam. The apple was just an apple, nothing special. Some of the other kids would have bananas, but I could never really pull that off. They'd always get so mushed up in my bag. Juice boxes were also pretty standard. Just a little box of juice with this straw. I remember we would sometimes like to stab each other with the pointy end. And then there were the fruit snacks. For those who don't know, fruit snacks are basically just a kind of candy that comes in these little individually wrapped pouches. When I was a kid, there was tons of different competing brands, so everyone would have their own kind. I always had Super Mario Bros. 3 fruit snacks in commemoration of what was, at the time, a very modern and hip video game. But other popular brands included Sodalicious,
the Soda Pop Fruit Snacks with the tingly soda sensation,
Shark Bites,
You've got to eat them before they eat you.
Gushers, which were full of fruity slime, and these things, fruit roll-ups, which are basically what you would get if your fruit snacks had been run over by a steamroller. Man, this is triggering intense flashbacks for me. I bought this just as a prop for this video, but now I'm realizing that I actually haven't seen or held fruit roll-ups in like 20 years, probably more than that. I know I said we weren't going to talk about cafeteria food, but I just want to tell you about the one day a month in which we would have hot dog day. On that day, with your parents' permission, the school would give us all a special lunch. Instead of a boring old sandwich, the school would give us a tiny hot dog like this one. Instead of a juice box, we would get a carton of chocolate milk. And instead of fruit snacks, we would get one of these things. We call them Long Johns. I don't know if you have them where you are. Basically just a big donut covered in chocolate. Hot dog days were the best. So based on this, you can probably draw some conclusions about Canadian food culture. We like bread, we like fruit, we like store-bought commercial nonsense, and we like sugar. But what about other parts of the world? Well, I worked briefly as an English teacher in Japan, and that gave me a little window into what the Japanese school children eat. Over there, the kids would bring these little plastic boxes to school, mostly filled with rice, often with a single pickled sour plum right in the middle to give the rice some flavor. I remember I once had a student who confidently told me that this is what the Japanese flag was supposed to represent: rice with a pickled plum in the middle. The other half of the box would be filled with some sort of vegetable medley, usually like broccoli and carrots and tomato and corn. They'd often have tamagoyaki too, which is this kind of scrambled egg cooked with sugar that Japanese children really like. If you've ever had tamago sushi, it's that thing. The other cliched thing would be a boiled hot dog wiener sliced up to look like an octopus. I'm serious, for some reason this was a real hot item in the Japanese lunchbox scene. I would often ask people why this was a thing, and they would often say, maybe to make lunch fun for the children? That is how Japanese people always answer questions, by the way. It is always, maybe, you know, because they don't like declarative statements. Making lunches fun for the children is one of the great hobbies of bored Japanese housewives, in fact. If you Google Japanese lunchboxes, you will see all sorts of incredibly creative styles of arranging rice, wieners, and veggies in a vain attempt to impress spoiled brat children, who in my experience just throw most of it in the garbage anyway. Now in India, meanwhile, their children tend to eat, and get ready for a big shocker here, Indian food. Some of the stereotypical Indian lunch foods we might recognize, like curry and rice, or a piece of roti or dosa bread, or a couple pakoras or samosas. But some of the other cliched foods are things you might have not heard of before, like idli, which is this kind of blob thing made of rice and lentils served with chutney, or this stuff called umpa, which is this sort of rice porridge everyone apparently hates. Now, if you are like me, you are probably wondering how the Indian children possibly bring all of this complicated food to school. Where I come from, we would just take everything and cram it into one of these cheap plastic Safeway bags and call it a day. But you can't do that if you're having some big fancy pants meal with all this rice and sauce. Apparently, the answer is to get one of these things, which is this big multi-tier stainless steel contraption called a tiffin tin, which you then haul around in an even bigger wicker basket. So I guess that's a fair trade-off for getting to eat Indian food for lunch every day, which frankly sounds kind of awesome. When it comes to fruits, Indian children apparently love their mangoes, especially fruity brand mango juice, which the Indian children apparently go nuts for, at least if this commercial is anything to go by. But of course, India is a gigantic country with many cultural deviations within it. If you are an Indian watching this, please let me know what is a stereotypical lunch thing from your particular region. Now, Europeans make lunches for their children, which are not too different from the lunches we have here in North America, which is to say very sandwich-centric. But of course, being Europeans, their sandwiches are all weird and different. In Germany, for instance, their kids often eat sandwiches made from this weird grainy bread known as Vollkornbrot instead of the nice fluffy white bread like we have here. And instead of jam or peanut butter, they might have a sandwich made of cheese or liverwurst. And lest we start to feel too insecure about those health-conscious Euros, I will note that a lot of European parents also give their kids Nutella sandwiches, which I think most American parents would probably draw the line at. But of course, when it comes to sandwiches, no one is as weird as the Brits. Over there, they give their kids all sorts of crazy stuff, like cucumber sandwiches, or crisp sandwiches, or French fry sandwiches, or sandwiches with this weird meat with a bear's face on it. British kids also like drinking Ribena, which is a black currant soda so sugary, a single small bottle is the equivalent of 13 Oreos. By the way, fun fact, do you know why we in North America have no clue what a black currant even is? It is because the species is a carrier of a particular kind of invasive fungus that poses a danger to our beloved pine trees. So you haven't been legally allowed to grow them here for many years, and as a result, they are this kind of mysterious exotic thing. Though it doesn't sound like our children's teeth are missing much. Now, obviously, I am only beginning to scratch the surface of lunches of the world. This is one of those topics that is quite hard to research, since people generally do not write informative articles about what children of the world eat for lunch, only hectoring articles about what they should be eating for lunch. Unhealthy little fatties. But this is where you come in. Help me out by posting in the comments what sort of stereotypical things parents make for their children's lunches in your country. Particularly, think about the sort of things that kids in your country might consider relatively ordinary, but would be very fun and exotic to us in other parts of the world. I will make a sequel video of all of the most interesting ones. And you want to know another way that you guys can help me out? Visiting today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Were you impressed by any of these photos I used in this video? Well, I took them myself, And a lot of what I have been learning about still life photography, I have learned from Skillshare. Skillshare is, of course, a very cool website that can teach you all sorts of useful skills in realms like art, and business, and music, and computer programming, you name it. I have been hawking their services for a while now, but I must genuinely say that it is a legitimately good website that I do honestly use a lot. It has certainly become my go-to site for whenever I want to get better at learning something. Because Skillshare teachers and classes have to pass a certain quality threshold to appear on the site, I always know that they will be clear and professional and informative, which is certainly a lot more than you can say for a lot of the so-called tutorials that you will find just by Googling blindly. But if you are skeptical, you can always just take a free trial and see if it is the right thing for you. If you subscribe using the link in the thing below, you will get unlimited access to the site for a full 2 months, which should be plenty of time to see what the site has to offer. It is also a fun and easy way that you can support my channel. So give it a try, let me know about the lunches, and I will see you all next week.